The very first model of the Digimon collaboration that originally started as nothing more than an art collab, and simply put, it is DGM00 Omega Knight with a kit of Dominion, Hyperbeam, Beam Sword, Biped Legs, and the leg ability of Auto Charge. Now, as mentioned, Omega Knight first was teased back in 2020 or so, or if relatively earlier on, as nothing more than an art collaboration between Tayuga and one of the main artists from the Digimon series. As simply put, it was just an April Fool's joke and nothing more, where they simply took a model from each other's series and essentially kind of drew it in their own style. However, in April of 2021, on April Fool's Day, Tayuga and the Imagineer basically had everyone fooled in a April Fool's prank a year in the making with an official Digimon collaboration with the said models that were drawn a year prior. Dominion is a support-based skill that is arguably one of the best support-based skills in the game, as it offers the radar sight buff of 30% to success to himself and all allies, field control, which adds one additional heavy slot to all legs not capped at 3, and overall G control, the leg ability of G control, to an extent where it changes all leg terrain matches to A rank, regardless of whatever they were before. So this alone, even before touching his arms, puts Omega Knight a tier above the rest with his support-based skills, as this basically allows him and his allies to fight on a relatively even playing field, no matter what terrain they're fighting on, especially given that bipeds are not good on, say, aquatic or desert wasteland terrains, where it isn't all that great. One use of Dominion can fix that very quickly and very easily. One other thing to make a mention of as well, just for the sake of saying it, it does not change all of them as mentioned. It'll simply change any terrain match that is not either already A rank or already S rank. So this essentially will help you balance out what legs you're using and what terrain you're using them on. Hyperbeam is an optic attribute based skill that gets a ×2 damage bonus at 30% charge and a ×3 damage bonus at 100% charge with pierce damage. So essentially this takes the danger of, say, Beastmaster, but also puts it on a right arm, which is something that you don't see very often for high damage dealing attacks. Beam Sword essentially is the melee variant of that, so it too is an optic attribute attack, meaning that it also gets the ×2 damage bonus and the ×3 damage bonus at 30% and 100% Metaforce charge respectively. And as if this wasn't already enough, the leg ability of Auto Charge basically rounds out any particularly glaring weakness that Omega Knight may have, aside from maybe having double heavy parts or having very low heat cool on top of that. He basically rounds himself out very well to make him a one-man Metaforce army, similar to how God Emperor or Torito Beetle do the same. He also has very solid leg stats across the board too. 760 mobility means that he has that very solid sweet spot where bipeds need to be. Evade of 858 means he's also not great at evading, but also not terrible either. He will dodge every once in a while or graze, but only for particularly low success, low heat cool attacks essentially. But with a melee and shoot resist of 1082 and 1012, he actually can tank hits relatively well and is pretty well balanced across the board. So for these reasons, I would honestly have to rate Omega Knight a pretty solid 9 out of 10, or maybe even a 10 out of 10 for anyone that did participate in the collaboration and did get him. The only big weaknesses that Omega Knight does have, as mentioned, is the relatively low heat and cool that he has on his arms, and the kind of nominally low success rate between Hyperbeam and Beam Sword. One other big weakness that Omega Knight does have, if you're going to use him as a pure set, is the fact that you also have to basically choose if you want to make him your dedicated shooter, your dedicated melee fighter, or if you want to sacrifice some damage and build him for balance between the two of them. But as mixed parts, very easily across the board a 9 out of 10, even a 10 out of 10 as well for anyone that did snag him, because literally any of his parts you can use anywhere. Beam Sword and Hyperbeam are of course self-explanatory, Dominion for the fantastic buffs that it offers and is openly welcome to any team that needs a support skill, and the biped legs as well for their overall balance, and the addition that you can use them for anyone that is in need of that is a Metaforce-reliant nuker, melee or shooting varied, for anyone that is in need of it.